The early part of this decade in 2012, 2013, and we went through a bunch of different generations of the product. It was first a SaaS-based product that was a native app publishing platform, and it really was built for mobile first, so that it used all of the sensors and I guess the past few years is that technology has really taken flight. So we're looking at the 5G launch, we're looking at Web 3.0, the evolution to the third stage of the internet is really going to enable a more interactive, collaborative, transactional, and spatial operating environment. So we're building new types of experiences for that. And also blockchain and AI, the coupling of those two technologies. So in the convergence of all these emerging technologies, there's a grand opportunity to kind of modernize and decentralize media distribution. And so Lionshare hopes to be on the forefront of that, to empower content creators not only to deliver unprecedented user experiences, but to also modernize the efficiencies on the back end in terms of rights management, in terms of payments, in terms of royalties, in terms of asset management. And a lot of the platforms and services that you saw today are underway at Lionshare as well. I wear two other hats in the blockchain space. One is the executive director of Global Women in Blockchain, and take my media very seriously to the cause. So we do want to, in addition to identifying the top women, we actually are going to start a database that put the women on the database. Our database will be on the blockchain, so we could self-identify and verify our backgrounds and our credentials, as well as also a media aspect of really sharing the stories and the journey from here on in. So we'll make them not long stories, but really short form content stories that showcase different, whether it be at a larger firm that you're innovating or whether you're an innovator or a government. So we're going to really showcase a lot of the new ways in which blockchain is going to be adapted. And I guess the bigger announcement today is that we are announcing our collaboration with a new U.S. organization. It's the U.S. Blockchain Advocacy Partners, and Global Women in Blockchain will also be partners with this group. I think one of the key drivers for us to want to partner with this group is that they have a long-term strategic vision for how they work with state and local government, as well as women. Blockchain opens up an incredible opportunity for inclusivity, equality, and diversity, and we have opportunities to work with the Congress to influence policies and laws, and also public opinion. And so we're going to be announcing today that the U.S. Blockchain Advocacy Partners will be an operating partner of Global Women in Blockchain.
And I'm so excited to be here again, a repeat trip here, although I'm bummed I didn't get to go to Joe Lubin's beer party last night, which I just heard about. Shouldn't have gone back to the hotel room. I am the founder of Purpose Worldwide, which is a communications firm. I would like to say that Global Women in Blockchain and actually the summit might have inspired me creating this agency. My own background was helping to run technology companies. I helped to found an email marketing company in '99 that we sold as we were going from analog to digital. And I stayed and merged companies within that space for quite a long time, until about 7 years ago when I led a national agency that was working at any given time with about 30 companies in the technology space that were preparing for exits, IPOs, mergers and acquisitions. It was really exciting, but it got a little boring as we started to shift from digital into this fourth industrial age. And as a business, we were really focused on some of the larger companies, and I was not getting an opportunity in my day job to spend time with the early innovators. And I was at a dinner party after helping NASDAQ and NIAX forge an alliance, which created a really super special client project that I was working on in the ad tech space, in which NIAX, which is the New York Interactive Advertising Exchange, was starting to trade smart contracts in advertising for the first time ever. I was really inspired by that, and I went home to Austin and went to a dinner party, and I met Nina's cousin at IBM. And when she asked what I was interested in, it kind of led to three topics: global business, innovation, blockchain, Inclusivity, and she said, you know what? Those are 3 things my cousin Nina is very interested in, and she just founded Global Women in Blockchain. So long story short, I quit my job leading my last agency last November, founded a new one. We have 12 clients, which are paid clients that are folks that are, as Accenture does and IBM, they're innovating the sectors in which they play. And we have 2 non-for-profit clients. One of them is the Foundation for Tomorrow, which is educating and empowering children in Tanzania who are vulnerable or orphaned, and that's a really special project. And the other one is Global Women in Blockchain. So this kind of group of people here, you in the room, are the reason, part of the reason we exist. And I'm excited to continue introducing all of the leaders in the space. And then for those of you in the space, one thing I'll be doing more with Global Women in Blockchain that I wasn't able to do in my last role was helping to advise you if you come in through Global Women in Blockchain. We'd love to give you some marketing advisory from time to time when we can afford to do that. And we're also looking for partnerships with some of the leaders, folks in the room that have already approached us. We've met Accenture this time, IBM, National Instruments, Perkins Coie sponsored our event last night. So the more the merrier. We'd love, it is gender neutral. Join us.
Good afternoon, I'm Pamela Norton. I'm the CEO and founder of Borsetta. We are an AI hardware and software company. We are building the first AI vision chip secured on the blockchain for the US Air Force for it will be used for any autonomous device. So I'm actually very excited to share that news with everyone. For those that know my story, I've been here for the past 4 times. People look at me and they're like, wait, I thought you were securing diamond chips on the blockchain. How did you go from diamond chips to military chips? The way my mind works, it makes total sense because it's a valuable asset. So, but we were fortunate enough about a year ago to come across some unique technology from DARPA, which is the Department of Agency of Research, for this Department of Defense Agency of Research, which has brought us the internet. They brought us Siri, they brought us touchscreen, they brought GPS. And it's a mini chip that's able to track and trace the provenance of an origin of an asset. So it's a component that we've included into our chip that we are currently building. So I'm excited to share that news, that it's a convergence. What I see happening in the market is when you look at just sort of blockchain alone on its own, and I think that's why the market in general has struggled with use cases, because it's like, yeah, this is really cool technology, tamper-proof record, and it's a trustless environment, and it's all these great things, and yet it's when you look at this convergence of not only artificial intelligence, machine learning, you look at nanotechnology, you look at microchips and sensors, which will be embedded in everything, in all of us. And we then ask the question of, okay, if there are going to be sensors, microchips in everything, watching everything that we're doing, what happens to our data privacy? What happens to our control? What happens to, right? We have a window of opportunity, and that's part of my passion. I am writing a book that hopefully will come out later next year called The Edge Economy. And I've been fortunate for the past 3 years to have met some of the smartest and brightest people around the world who will help collaborate. And what I believe is happening is that we will have machine-to-machine transactions, we will have person-to-person transactions, all of our assets will be tokenized. We should have control of those assets in our own personal digital wallet. I should have self-sovereign identity, that all of my things that I own, I should be able to control. And I should be able to control the data at the chipset level. And that is also something that I'm actively trying to work on and educating Washington that that's our only chance, I believe, in taking on big tech is if we are going to take back control, it has to be at that level. I'm also really passionate about changing the funding system, or it's a broken system that works for the few and the privileged and the elite. anything most people would fund, even though I've had several startups, several exits. I have been pitching in Silicon Valley 20 years ago during the crazy internet days. Couldn't get funding. We ended up getting acquired by a group out of Sweden. So I know how difficult it is. I know even how difficult it is for me a couple weeks ago just trying to get a line from Chase. I have a 7-figure contract from the US government. I will have an 8-figure in probably 4 months. And do you know what was said to me? Like, you can't believe this. Do you have another job that we could use? I'm like, excuse me. Like, last I knew, the government's money, I think, is pretty good. It's a pretty low risk, even though just keep printing it. So our hope is to at least be a company. We want to focus on a Reg A Plus event, maybe sometime at the end of next year or the following. I want non-accredited investors to have the opportunity, a chance to invest in Versetta. I want to help lead the market that the Reg A, Series A, B, C, D is not the future. The future is for people to invest in companies. You digitize, you tokenize the stock. I can do a variety of different smart contracts based on how I want to reward and how a shareholder wants to be rewarded, whether it's based on paying for products or services. And I want to just help be part of leading that revolution. IPO is not where it's at, and it's an alternative trading platform is the future. And I hope to be the voice to help, promote other women-led ventures as well as all small entrepreneurs or small businesses in this country.
Great. One quick interjection. Yes. Applause. Rod, Donovan, would you do me a favor, and underneath the tablecloth there's a black bag, and bring that over to me? The one that's by our signage. Thanks. I forgot to put a little prop that I need to use. And Rod, by the way, has been here. This is Rod's 4th time being here as well, and he's been a great supporter of us here in Denver. So thank you very much.
Well, hi everybody. Let me just say I'm really honored to be here with all these wonderful women who are leaders in the industry. I'm Erika Beerbower, and I'm in healthcare. My background is as a pharmacist. I'm currently working on a few healthcare consortia projects with IBM, Robinson Health, including the Health Utility Network and the Pharmacy Utility Network. But my interest in blockchain started a few years ago. It's my 3rd year at the summit. In cryptocurrency investing, because my family, my brother lives in remote British Columbia, and he's very into crypto, and got me into it that way. And then I started realizing, being in healthcare and seeing all the pain points around clinicians, the paperwork clinicians have to do with the patients and how they don't have access to their records. I started seeing the potential for blockchain, and it really got me inspired to look more into how it can be applied to healthcare. So I went down that road, and I currently am part of several standards working groups with Hyperledger and IEEE. I am writing a paper on the application of blockchain for business, for supply chain and medical device tracking. And I'm also working with IBM as well, and I'm very passionate about clinician and patient empowerment and being able to own your own data. And I think, as the wonderful presentation earlier from Heather Flannery, I don't know if everyone saw that, but we're reaching a tipping point where patients know how valuable their data is, and things are changing. So we're going to have a way to empower patients. And from seeing treatments fail because clinicians didn't have access to records, we're definitely in need of a complete overhaul of the healthcare industry. So.
Agreed. Do you have something?
I do, just because Pamela hit on one thing. So I know that there's a lot of people that care in this room about the things we're talking about. But one thing, just before we walked into the room, that was bugging us, and I just thought I would air it, is that we're hearing a lot of discussion around inclusivity these days, and a lot lot of folks have been approaching Global Women of Blockchain, and we love it. We want everybody to approach us. But at the same time, we are hearing a little bit of doublespeak. So we'll get invited to a lot of things. You know, you're Global Women of Blockchain. Can you help power the conference? Can you attend? And then we hear these other things. Like the other day, we were on with some investors, and they told us, "Did you know that women innovators are better to invest in than others and proven?" And it's not necessarily playing out in terms of the offers afterwards. So, you know, to the extent that we can, you know, if you're talking the talk, walk the walk, and help us out, we would invite that. And then the second thing I wanted to let everybody in this room know is I've got a laundry list of clients that blockchain is going to be the helpful answer to. So if you're infrastructure companies, you mentioned patient data. So I have one client, for instance, that is really trying to empower the American consumers to own their own health data. He solved it. He had several $100 million companies in the B2B space. This is his first B2C play. These are companies ripe for the people in the room to help. So I'd love you guys to approach me after if you have something to offer them.
All right, we're going to hit one more industry, which is the hemp industry.
Yes.
So Nina has a double hat.
Yes. So I am beginning to work in the hemp industry, and we are going to develop the blockchain for hemp that will track it from seed to sale, and also work with brokers and everyone in between, from farm soil samples, and really help the pharmacy grow. So not the pharmacy, but the farm grow. And in some cases the pharmacy, because you know so much of the CBD and CBG is going out to the public, and it's quite the thing. And I have just bought a farm in Oklahoma, which I'm really excited about. And my family has a farm there, about 400 acres, which we're going to plant in hemp this coming 2020. And then the farm that I just bought is about 1,400 acres, and it also has Black Angus cattle, which I'm really excited about. But we're going to make sure that we help put hemp on the blockchain and throughout the world and trackable. But I have a little something to show you all, which was quite in fashion at my office the other evening when we were hosting the IBM Microledger event. I also have an office in Denver. But this is a sample. And this is what, when a company goes to buy like £1 million or 15 million pounds, they want to take a sample, take it to the lab, have it tested, and make sure that it meets all the requirements. It can't be more than, or it has to be 0.3% or less in THC. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen, you know, for biomass and for hemp and for CBD and CBG. And I'm hopeful to have a lab in my office in Oklahoma as well that we can test hemp. So that's a fun one.
You know, first of all, I think that the interesting thing about blockchain is no matter what vertical we're talking about, whether it's pharmaceutical, whether it's cybersecurity, fraud alert, whether it's advertising, hemp, the thing that comes off from this panel, not only this panel, but every panel, is that the benefits of blockchain are really horizontal, and they cut across all of these vertical industries. And what's really important is the best practices and use cases as we're in the nascent stage formation. And when I have to make a decision on what technologies I want to use, say, for media and entertainment, there's a plethora of blockchains to evaluate, and many on the way, right? So you can adapt something, just as Burst IQ came on the scene for healthcare, a lot of the functionality of that blockchain would work just as well for digital rights management. So in a lot of cases, I think what we have to do is cut across industries, and that's why this type of conference is so important. I've learned a lot about what I would want to put into the system, and everything from self-sovereign identity management to privacy all the way through to rights management to microtransactions to cross-border savings on transactions. There's every aspect when you're launching a new service. And what I want to comment that, you know, in the stage we're at now, from the ICO frenzy of about a year and a half ago, how many people were participating in that ICO component, where everybody was launching these startups. Well, then you haven't lost nearly as much money as I did. But I did. I got in because I thought it was the most exciting thing, and I felt like I was the poster child for an ICO because I had been on the third stage of financing my own company, and I thought, wow, this is it. I'm a woman over 50, and I think I have a lot of experience, and I don't really want to do the venture shuffle. So I thought I would take my chances and do an ICO. But when I started to scope out what was involved, there was just so many regulations and so much sort of, I was back in 1992 when we were launching the internet. So I felt that there was a lot of frothy experiences, especially internationally. I don't know if anybody really got involved, but I did. I actually sent my license and my bank account number to somebody in Dubai, right, for the first exchange. I'm still waiting for the aftermath. That's early adopters, okay? So, and I think your brother in Canada might have been one of those from, but maybe you did better. Anyhow, still waiting. But the thing I want to say about today is what's interesting is then after that cleared up and the lawyers started to kind of formulate more practicality and the government actually stepped in with some kind of severe reparations. I think what's really interesting is that the government itself still has to modernize for us, right? So on a state level, Wyoming, wow, leading the pack, phenomenal leadership in terms of policy making and open thoughts about how to solve some of the banking and the, even the IRA problems, and so all of that. So I'm, as well as anybody should, think about reincorporating out of Delaware into Wyoming. I'm all about that. But the thing is, being in Los Angeles and running a blockchain company, what's interesting, and I call it a blockchain company, it's part of the solution, and I think that the next generation of media and entertainment is definitely, people think about gamification, but I think of tokenization. But the most important part of it is it has to be in a user experience that somebody actually is going to want to engage with. So a lot of the tokenization conversations that we have are loose and floating on the internet, and they don't connect the dots with actually an end-to-end service. So I think that what we're going to see is a lot of innovation in user experience design. There's a gentleman right in front of me who I've been waiting to spend some time with, but user interaction design on how these wallets work, how the products and services show up in healthcare, anything that connects to the user for managing their own data has to be a lot less complicated than exchanging some crypto over a wallet today. And I think we've addressed that, and some folks have addressed that. And I think that for the entertainment space, I'm a big advocate of mobile first, but I'm also an advocate that the content creators can differentiate themselves from everybody who's on TikTok and who's dancing in their bedroom, and that there's still room for some valuation to their projects. So if anybody is involved in the media and entertainment space, love to talk to you.
Well, one other thing I'd like to mention too, with all of the women that are in our group, and obviously this is just a few women and it's a small representation, but you can tell that all of these women have experience and are a very good resource. So we invite you to come to us for resources, anything that you're really looking for. We're going to at some point have a matching, so if you're looking for a person in media, we have that person. And we probably do have most every single vertical covered that's out there. So we have all types of women. And we also, because I have a research firm, we're going to offer research services for really anybody in the space, and because we do have women across the globe who control 70%, or is it 80%?
Yes,
80% our spend globally. We can reach your target market, and anybody that you're wanting to look at and have feedback from. So we invite you to come to us for that as well.
What's our timeline? Do we have any questions from any of us?
I was going to say maybe turn it over for questions, especially for people who might want to, sorry for the mic, but if you are interested in learning about some of the new initiatives, like it's a terrible acronym, Susan can tell you a little more here, and then we can give you information on that. You actually heard it first. We won't be announcing publicly until next week, once we wrap up the press release and all the formal stuff. But we'd love to get you involved.
Right. Yeah, as a matter of fact, is John Carpenter in the room? No. Oh, he's outside. Okay. So he's been gracious enough, and because of this conference centering here, the thing that's interesting about the U.S. government, I think there are a lot of organizations that are set up to talk about digital technology, and I think the ITA really wowed me with the work that they're doing in trade finance, which is so critical, especially now. But I think what was interesting to us about partnering with the U.S. Blockchain Advocacy Group, I'll have to get that right, is that they are not only interested in working with, they want to form a coalition with all the states. There's a lot of best practices out there and issues that are on the ground, and I think the states are much more agile in being able to address policies and enact them, and I think that we want to create a forum for that, a coalition that really feeds back to the U.S. government. And I also think there'll be exciting new things, like we're working with them on the World Bank Forum, especially for women, and even educating people in Congress. I think women to women, because there's been such an influx of women into the House of Representatives this last year, and hopefully continuing on, we want to establish a direct connection. I think that when anybody listens to some of the hearings and some of the policy discussions, you recognize that it's pretty dissociative from the day-to-day. I think on healthcare, I'm sure you feel that you'd really love to have a one-on-one, a more intimate conversation about solving the challenges of healthcare and how you'd like to see it go. People like Heather and Sandra and all the folks that are very active in that. And then I see it as when they announced Libra, it was a frenzy. And there's a lot of big issues to discuss, and I think we have to create open communication, and I think that's what this group is going to be doing in a little more personalized and more intimate settings as well. So I think it's very appealing to our aesthetic. Yes.
One other thing I wanted to mention about energy, I don't know if anyone was able to make the energy session yesterday, but I work with Chuck Manto back here, who's also a grand supporter of Global Women in Blockchain and of diversity. But Chuck holds an IDIQ, which if anybody knows what that is, it's a indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contract with the federal government. And what that allows us to do in the energy space and what we've been working on, Chuck's been working on for years and holds 7 patents in energy. We're looking at the infrastructure of the U.S. and trying to protect the critical infrastructure of the U.S. This contract vehicle allows us to go directly to the client, bypass the RFP process. So if anyone in here is working with the government on a case that needs some assistance or possibly work with us in the energy space, please do find me about that as well, because it's a really great opportunity. He's the only person I didn't even know what an IDIQ was until I met Chuck. So it's a really grand opportunity for companies to work with us, and we have some great sponsors in there as well.
All right. Anybody have any questions? All right, well, every woman in this room should sign up.
We'd like all the women.
And men.
Yes, before we leave, we'd like all the women, if you guys you gals wouldn't mind, to come up to the stage and have our picture made.
Yeah.
And we invite all the women to also join. All the women to also join us. If you're not a member, please join us. And it's fun. It's a great learning experience. It's really good camaraderie. And it's great to have experts in the field and be able to bring women into the forefront. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, Chuck Manto, Cookie Monster definition of, hey, you guys, includes the women. Have you ever thought of a booster club for the guys so they could have an associate membership? They only have to pay double or something?
Yes.
It's a general organization.
Yes.
Brilliant. Erika Beerbower who's here, and Don Tapscott, and so many people in the room have been active supporters since day one.
Yes. They don't.
So I'm kind of an outlier in this group in that I represent the geospatial professional field. And in Wyoming, Teton County has a pilot project putting all of our land records on the blockchain. And I'm hoping to get more traction to expand that to a statewide solution so that we can help, with basic land recordation. and property ownership. And that's, you know, a key thing in developing countries, especially for women, to document that they own property. And so, you know,
Wow,
we
that's great.
bringing together GIS and blockchain is like the fizzle. And so we'd like to really get
What we were going to try to do is put a media track together, because everybody's watching video, and I think the more presence we can give to these projects, the better. So we're definitely committed in 2020. We're looking for some sponsors for that, but I think some of the organizations behind us, I mean, global, I mean, that's a beautiful use case, and it really goes into social impact. So that's a good story. Anybody else? I just want to point out that the Canadian, Canada's in the house also. Do you want to say anything? Do you want to say anything?
Sure. So I gave a talk earlier this morning, and I shared some really big numbers. And the one number that relates to this room that I didn't share was how many women are in the field. This is the first time we've ever measured Canada's blockchain ecosystem, ever. So it's a pretty big deal when it comes to research, because when you can put job numbers down for government, it generally compels them to care. So I was pretty excited that we could do that. But the numbers for women in the space are still not being well understood. And so I think we have a fair bit of work to do. We polled numbers like 40-ish% of women are working in blockchain companies in the roles of marketing and human resources. And I know for a fact there's a significant number of women who are actually engineers and comp sci people and sitting as CEOs. So I think it's really important to share our story broadly, globally, but for those that are actually building, make sure we know. Because if we don't know, if you don't participate in research like this as it's happening, if we're not sharing it and celebrating it, we can't count it. And if we can't count it, we can't actually measure the change. So I'm incredibly inspired by the group. I think what you're doing is amazing. I'm excited to see what we're going to do around the world together. And thank you very much for acknowledging that I'm here.
That's great. And actually, one of the other pieces to this, which we just started to talk about, so you can put that, we have 2 more minutes. I just want to, we don't?
Actually, you have -6 minutes.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah, we started before this.
You know, we're either late or we're on time, either way. I just want to say that one of the important things as part of that is to ensure that people are certified, and there are a lot of levels of blockchain to get involved with, both project management, coding, inspiration, you know, being entrepreneurs. And so we're going to try to initiate a new program that gives some certification, and we'll put that on the blockchain too. So when we put the global women actually on the blockchain, certification and validation of your history and your capabilities will be part of that. Excellent.
Thank you.